And our guest today, our manawhiri, is Mamae Takerei, and we're here at Tūranga Waiwai Marae. We're going to have a talk about a lot of things because Nanaiore is everything from the pā to Parliament, back again, everything in between. Nō reira, e te whaia rongo nui, e mihi ana ki a koe, and thanks for making the time available for us to have a little bit of a kōrero.
He tohu anō tēnei e whiti mai ana te rā, nō reira, e pai ana, e pai.
Yeah, well, you
Good.
know, there's so much that we can talk about, but I really wanted to, let's just unpack this kotahitanga call. It's not the first time in any generation that Māori have called for unity. So how are you perceiving what's happening now and where Māoridom iwi are moving towards?
As you say, kotahitanga is made to pass. It's the past. It's a concept that was created, mairano, by our tūpuna, mai tātua, ki hei, all right? So the gods back down to us. It's transitioned right across the board, where through our kaumātua to today, we have marae named kotahitanga. We have kaupapa named kotahitanga. We have a tūturu kingitanga that created that kotahitanga in 1856. So when we look at it, what does it mean for me? What's happened?
And what do you think it means? What do you think people are thinking it means today?
Well, they understand the word unity. They understand that. However, is the whole context of the unity, is the purpose that's brought us together. Why? Why is it so relevant today, especially in this time? If we reflect back to Tāwhiao, to his time, is a lot of the proverbial sayings was created on the basis of faith. When we became landlessness, after the taking of 1.2 million acres of land from Waikato, we became landless, we lived in poverty, we had nothing. And yet prior to that, the 1800s, we were good. So we look at that kotahitanga, it was a faith. And Tāwhiao said that our salvation will be realized through our own hands. Now that salvation of kotahitanga today, it's true, it's timely.
Yes, but people are being galvanised, I think, because of what the government is saying.
Hey.
You know, turning the clock back on Māori wards, turning the clock back on provisions in oranga tamariki so that our tamariki can be looked after by their own whānau, getting rid of te aka whaiora. And it seems to me that's what's driving the sentiment around kotahitanga. Is that how you're seeing it?
I see it as the breach of the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi, te tiriti o te Waitangi, ne? Te tiriti. And we look at that, you know, the promises that were made back in 1840 is that we were never a partner. The fact of the matter is that the land was taken for colonial control. And they're doing it again. You know, the races of this government is that it's deliberate. It was set out there to get the percentages to be able to put that government into power. You know that. Is that from a layperson's perspective, I could see what was happening. I could see, you know, the structure of going around the country and convincing all those races that have come out of the woodwork to determine the future of Māori. The annihilation of Māori that's where they're going. That's the course.
Do you think that the makeup of the coalition government has emboldened people who hold such strong views about kind of diminishing Māori rights and kind of taking away...
Most definitely so. Most definitely.
And do you think that's a new thing for Aotearoa New Zealand?
It's new because it's come out. It's come out, but it's always been there. The rot has always been there ever since the 1700s when the whalers came. Their purpose was to drink, to provide drink, to bring scurvy, to bring the sickness, to kill, literally kill our people. And we look at it, is that we survived the onslaught of smallpox. We survived the onslaught of the epidemic of the Spanish flu. We've survived the COVID-19. And we are survivors. That's what Tāwhiao said.
Well, Tāwhiao also gave us guidance through, you know, I guess values and principles like utua te kino i te pai. How does that apply now in terms of these issues that we're facing and the emboldened negative racist attitudes of people?
Well, utua te kino i te pai, it's happening with kotahitanga. Is that the unity of the people now, it's not just about Māori anymore, it's about the whole country.
But is Māori Parliament the solution?
Well, I believe that the Kohanganui is the solution, because that was established way back in the 1800s, the Te Wāoto Tupuna Tāwhiao, is that we look at that, the Kohanganui, and that name is now sacred because it started at places like Parawera, Maungakawa, Rukumoana, Ngārua Wāhia. It was a process, a structure that he put into place so that the motu can sit down and talk about the concerns of the iwi and then be able to have a unified voice from our people who are in Parliament, and we need to put them in there. We need to fill all those seats in Parliament to have a greater majority of Māori, so that we have a stronger voice, because what comes to pass is that there are so many kaupapa, not only harbours and rivers, not only land, not only the impact on like Rua Kenana, the impact on Tamakai Moana. We look at all those. How do we resolve those?
Well, this is the thing. Does the Māori Parliament allow different iwi to come together in one forum and have a kind of debate the issues? Because I think there's a view out there that a Māori Parliament in Kotahitanga is about everybody having the same opinion and view and things like that. But that's not always the case. Will a Māori Parliament in today's kind of environment enable iwi to have different opinions but still come out with a strategy to move towards a common direction?
You know, one of my problems is that I have a situation, and it really irks me. It gets to me in my inner self, is that ko hoha noi hau ki te Māori. There's only a few that speak up. Where's the rest of you? Where are you? Why are you sitting on the fence? We've got 99% sits on the fence, only 1% gets out there to talk.
Yeah, well, share with me this perspective then, that because, you know, Māori are made up of now we're hitting just about 1 million people at the last census, very young population, but should rangatahi voice be at the expense of kaumata, lived experience, people who know kind of certain kaupapa to a degree of being able to offer some bit of wisdom, bit of knowledge around that? Should we be, you know, sacrificing one voice for another? How can we bring it together better? And what have we learnt from our own past in terms of bringing these different perspectives together?
Well, I think that's where the situation evolves around the attitude and the behaviour. Humility is a precious word. Is that rangatahi, yes, the changeover has to happen, it has to evolve. But you cannot trample on the mana of kaumātua, and I won't allow it to happen. I won't.
So let's go back to the time of Te Puia. And she was very much seen as a leader who embraced rangatahi, who taught rangatahi, all the orphans that were brought up the river. What was the way in which she emulated succession planning to positively bring through rangatahi?
Well, how it was emulated is first we look at the Te Puia's relationship with the mokopuna, with the rangatahi of that period of time. My grandmother was 14 when she was down at Te Paina, and that particular group came through with the understanding that they had to commit to the tikanga, and the tikanga was to look after each other, to make sure that you were well fed, and if the children had to go without, the kaumātua would go without, so that the children would never starve. And it happened many times. Now the change of attitude is the humility, is that you can advance this together if there is humility. And understanding of what your responsibility is. You don't takahi the mana of kaumātua so that you can profile yourself. I will not tolerate that. I won't put up with that, because that is wrong. That is so wrong. There are times, though, very rare, that I allow rangatahi to make a stand. If it's for the right thing, by all means.
But how do you assess the right thing? So, for example, there's rangatahi there who have certain skills, they want to be shown, they're waiting to be told, maybe don't get told. What kind of tikanga can we adopt back home on the marae and in our own community to make it a learned pathway? You know, it's actions, not words, that are going to help our rangatahi, I think.
Well, I believe that one of the examples is classic. We've got a rangatahi that stands on the marae, and that rangatahi parekura. You know, beautiful stars, beautiful wairua and everything else like that. And he stands and clear. Kei te matatau, he's clear in what he's talking about. He has the background, he understands, he researches. I heard a kaumātua's remark on the paipai. When he stood up tutu ngārahu, tutu wairua, he stood up on the marae and he was doing his everything, and when he regressed and when he finished, this kaumātua stood up, he said, I'm not going to do that. Now there's the behaviour, the negative behaviour. We should be supporting them, not to have to undermine the style of presentation, how they talk.
It's different for our tamahine though, because I can remember growing up and there were very few queer who did stand and, put their thoughts forward so that it was not merely about just singing the waiata. There was a place for women's voice in the debate so that it could come through. What are we not doing today? Or what could we do today? Yeah, what could we do today to make it more, accessible? Yeah, equal, because it feels like there's this gender divide, but the only ones that can have an opinion
is men.
Are men. When that's not the case, it should be women as well.
I think one of the things that they grieve about every time they make give an opinion, I will challenge it. And the sad thing is that there's not many of me. That's the sad part. There's only you and I that have the gumption to stand up and say, "Anei whakaro." Here's a thought, and the thought is mine. And we need to think about those things. We need women to stand up and say, don't just stand up for grandstanding or just to profile yourself. You need to stand up and stick to the kaupapa, give a solution, and let's move forward.
Well, let's wind this back, and if we were just sitting down with our nephews and nieces about kind of what we could do to support each other, to undertake our roles and responsibilities within the whānau and then on the marae, how would we be encouraging that next generation to be able to come forward, be confident, put tikanga at the front of how they're thinking about these things. Because I quite honestly, I think there's a lot of young people there that are looking and watching, they're seeing mainly male voices come through, especially for our kōrero, and they're saying, well, actually, maybe I'm just there to sing the waiata and, cook the kai and all of that.
And I want to say this,
right.
I want to say this to you young women out there, there's a place for you on the paipai. There is. I used to, and I still do. The old style is you come to the kitchen, you wash the dishes, you feed the people, and you come through that side door onto the marae. And you used to think that coming onto the marae, that's the last port of call and you go to taupiti. No, it's not. It's not. Young ladies, and this is where I say to you, you have the whole attitude. You're able to strategize as what is right and what is wrong. You can, because you've seen it all. The whole lot, the whole gambit. And it allows you to be able to assess how and what to do. Come back to your tikanga. You marry those off, and then you've got the strong woman that stands there. And I say that because I've had the experience. I've been through that back door. I come through the front door. And it's not because you come off the road that you want the first place of priority. No, you earn it, all right? But there are young women out there in this tribe, they're brilliant, but they won't step forward.
So I think there's a challenge out there for a generation of us who are able to bring young women in particular forward to feel more confident and encourage them, and aki. So I think that is a task for us. But
it has been over the last few years, sorry, aroha mai, but it has been over the last few years that I've concentrated on preparing these men for the paipai, because our paipai is in dire straits. It's like the women. It's only just recently, but because the impact of their work is that we have to now schedule our people within, when you're available, what time, and all those things, a real Pākehā agenda. It's not Māori anymore.
Well, let me bring us back to kotahitanga. Is Māori Parliament the answer? Is creating a Māori Parliament today in 2024 the answer towards kind of the challenge of, you know, kaikiri, all these kind of outrageous kind of criticisms of Māori and where we're going? Do you think?
Do I think that Parliament is the right way for us?
A Māori Parliament.
I have my concerns about that. I have serious concerns because I'm going to say the Parliament that you want to set up is not a Parliament that's going to attack the country. We cannot work like that. We need the Parliament that's in existence now, and we know it's not a it's constituted body. Know that. If anybody could call it what? You call it an organisation. Ko te whakatupu, you know, that kawenata way back that was endorsed by King William. Koe rā anake te mana o te motune. Koe rā anake.
So let me test you there, because a Māori Parliament for Waikato is really our marae and how we debate on our marae.
Yeah.
So if we're not if we don't have an inclusive space for all voices to be heard in the way that our kaupapa are happening, then to me, we need to check ourselves around a Māori Parliament, because we've got to do that first, get the basics right, which is how do we have the conversation amongst ourselves before we even try to have another conversation.
That's a key word. How do we have the conversation? How do we start? Where do we start? Because way back, if we go back 50, 60 years ago, we were able to talk to each other. Today, we can't.
Yeah. So are the Pokai achieving what they should be in terms of being able to be this kind of nurturing place or this space to have a political conversation?
The Pokai itself is the pulse of the King Tāwhiao, it's the pulse of the people. And I've written about that, and I'm putting out documents, books about it, because you need to understand that the Pokai is the pulse of the people. And I don't use that word lightly, because without the people, the King Tāwhiao is nothing. So the people, are they using the Pokai to express their concerns and all those things? I think it's so structured now, is that our kaumātua, who were the voice on the paipai, they had no voice, because when we look at after dinner or after lunch, it's all structured. And it's good. We need to know where we're going, but at the same time, does the paipai understand where we're going?
Well, you heard it here. The Pokai are the pulse of the people, and are we using that forum to be able to bring our whakaaro through so that we know where we want to go? That sounds like a whole nother episode to me.
It is.